He kissed me under the Eiffel Tower, promised me forever, and then left his phone unlocked like betrayal was begging to be found. We boarded the flight in silence, the kind of quiet that feels expensive. First class. Champagne in real glass. Leather seats that tilt all the way back. Derek looked over at me with that curated smile and said, "You deserve this." I thought he meant the trip. Now I know he meant the lie. Paris had always been my dream. I told him once in passing, after too many glasses of wine on our second date. He remembered, or pretended to. That was his skill. He knew how to make a moment feel like magic, even if it was manufactured. When we landed, there was a car waiting. Black Mercedes, driver in a suit, hotel reservations at a place I couldn't pronounce but instantly Googled. 5 stars, balconies that opened to the Seine, rose petals on the bed. I thought it was romance. It was performance. The first day felt like a movie. Shopping on the Champs-Élysées, macarons in a pastel box, kissing selfies in front of Notre Dame. I posted everything. Stories, reels, the whole curated carousel. He smiled every time I turned the camera on him, like he wanted the world to see what a perfect partner he was. That night, at dinner, he pulled out the ring, a diamond so big it caught the candlelight like a secret. "Will you marry me?" he asked, loud enough that people clapped. I said, "Yes." Of course I said yes. I thought this was it. My story. Our story. I posted the ring on Instagram before dessert. Captioned it, "He asked, I melted. Paris forever." The likes poured in. Friends back home sent heart emojis. Maya texted, "Is this real?" I replied, "Finally. I meant it." Back in the hotel, I was still buzzing. I kept staring at the ring like it was proof. Proof that I wasn't crazy for staying through all the rough patches. That the gaslighting, the disappearances, the emotional detachment, it all led to this. Commitment. He fell asleep fast. Champagne, maybe. Or just relief that the performance was complete. I couldn't sleep. So I grabbed his phone to take a picture of us from earlier. He said he'd airdropped it, but didn't. That's when I saw it. Her name was Ava. A thread of messages sat open like a wound. The last one read, "Can't wait to see you when you're back. Miss you already." My stomach dropped. I scrolled up. Photos, flirty messages, and then a hotel reservation in Paris for last week. Same hotel. I dropped the phone. Physically dropped it. Like it burned. I looked at him. Mouth slightly open, peaceful, disgusting. And then I looked at the ring again. Suddenly, it didn't feel like a promise. It felt like a cage. This wasn't heartbreak. It was humiliation wrapped in diamonds. And in that moment, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stared at the wall and whispered to myself, "He lied." And I smiled for the camera. Derek and I met at a rooftop bar downtown. He was the kind of man who made everyone feel like they were the only person in the room. That night, it was me. He bought me a drink before I even finished mine, asked about my career, remembered my boss's name from a casual mention. It felt like fate, like finally someone saw me. Not just looked, saw. I had just gotten out of a long, exhausting situationship. Derek was the opposite of vague. He called when he said he would. Texted good morning. Showed up on time. For someone used to being breadcrumbed, his attention felt like love. It wasn't. In the beginning, he was everything. Flowers at my door. Surprise tickets to shows I casually mentioned. Inside jokes that made strangers jealous. I thought I was being adored. But I was being studied. He was learning my weaknesses like a script. He moved fast. We went from talking to exclusive in a month. He made it feel like the kind of whirlwind romance people post about. When you know, he'd say. Why wait? And I didn't want to wait. I was tired of almosts. He made me feel like I was finally enough. He had money, not flashy, but curated. The kind of wealth that shows in quiet confidence and expensive silence. I never questioned it. He owned a tech startup, traveled a lot, always on calls. I thought it was ambition. Now I see it was distraction, deflection. I introduced him to my parents after 3 months. They loved him. My mom said, "He's so composed." My dad said, "You're lucky. Men like him don't just show up." And I believed them, because he made sure they saw only what he wanted them to. Maya, though, she was different. She asked questions, noticed things. Why doesn't he ever tag you? How come you're always the one posting? I brushed her off, called her paranoid. I hate how right she was. The first time he disappeared for a weekend, he said it was for a digital detox retreat. No service, no distractions. I missed him, but he came back with flowers and stories, so I let it go. Looking back, I think that was Ava. Or maybe someone else. Maybe I was never the only one. Sex with Derek was strategic, passionate when he wanted it to be, cold when he didn't. He controlled everything, the pace, the mood, even the playlist. At the time, I thought it was sexy. But really, it was a preview of how everything would be. On his terms, he never apologized. Ever. If we fought, he'd twist the narrative so well I'd forget why I was mad. "I just want peace," he'd say, after making me feel like the crazy one. That's what gaslighting looks like in designer shoes and candlelit dinners. I kept thinking if I just did things right, cooked the meals he liked, stayed quiet during his calls, posted the right photos, he'd stay fully present. But he never really stayed. Not emotionally. Not with both feet. He told me he wanted forever. Said he saw a future. That Paris was just the beginning. I didn't realize that, to him, forever was a performance. And I was just one of the actresses. But I didn't see that yet. I was still inside the dream. After finding the messages, I didn't confront him right away. I couldn't. My mind was spinning so fast I felt nauseous. I lay next to him all night, his back turned to me, while my heart pounded like a war drum. I memorized every word Ava wrote, every kiss emoji, every lie he told her. That mirrored mine. By morning, I had convinced myself there had to be a mistake. Maybe the messages were old. Maybe he had ended it before proposing. I clung to those maybes like a lifeline. Denial is a drug, and I was overdosing in the prettiest hotel suite in Paris. He woke up like nothing happened. Kissed my forehead, ordered us breakfast, scrolled through my Instagram post. "You're trending, babe," he said, grinning. I wanted to scream. I wanted to rip the phone out of his hand and smash it against the mirror. But I didn't. I smiled. That day, we walked through Montmartre. Painters, crepes, cobblestones. He held my hand the whole time. And I kept thinking, does Ava know he holds my hand like this? Does she know he uses the same laugh? Same compliments? I started watching him closely. The way he avoided putting his phone down. How he turned off notifications. How he left the room to take calls from the team. My instincts weren't paranoid. They were screaming. I went through his bag when he showered. Found 2 receipts. One, for dinner at the same restaurant he took me to. The other for lingerie I never wore. Ava's name was on the hotel folio. My breath caught. I felt like a guest in a life he had rehearsed before. I stopped posting. I went dark on social. I wanted to observe, not perform. And I noticed how anxious that made him. "You didn't post today," he said. Are you okay? His concern felt fake, manufactured, like he needed the narrative to stay pretty. I called Maya, whispering from the hotel bathroom. I told her everything. She didn't say, I told you so. She just listened. Then she said, whatever you do, don't confront him here. Not in Paris. Come home. Then end him. That night, I faked a migraine, said I needed to sleep early. He offered to get me meds from the pharmacy. The second he left, I unlocked his laptop. Same password as his phone. Predictable. Arrogant. I found everything. Emails, messages, photos. He had folders labeled client trips, but the attachments weren't receipts. They were selfies with Ava in Rome, in Greece, in bed. He didn't even bother to hide it well, because he thought I'd never look. That was the moment something changed in me. The ache stopped being fear. It became fuel. I looked in the mirror and whispered, "You're not crazy. He's just good at hiding the truth." Because he wasn't messy, he was practiced, a master manipulator. And I'd spent a year being rewritten by him. Not anymore. The flight home was silent. I watched clouds pass beneath us while he dozed off with his noise-canceling headphones, completely unaware that I knew everything, that I had memorized every lie, that I had saved every screenshot. I sat there, motionless, trying to breathe past the feeling that my chest might crack open. The ring felt heavier with every mile we crossed. I twisted it around my finger like it might loosen the betrayal, but it didn't. It clung to me like guilt, like a joke I didn't get until the punchline slapped me across the face. When we landed, he kissed my cheek and said, "Back to reality." I wanted to scream, "What reality? The one you crafted with Ava? Or the one you paid for in Paris to keep me quiet a little longer?" But I said nothing. Silence was my armor now. We got back to his place, our place. Everything looked the same. Too clean, too curated. But now every corner held a different weight. The couch he sat on while texting her. The kitchen counter where he told me he loved me. The bed where he kissed two women like they were one. I went to the bathroom, shut the door, took off the ring and held it under the faucet like water could cleanse it. But nothing could wash the betrayal off my skin. I dried it with a towel and dropped it in a drawer. It didn't deserve a pedestal anymore. That night, I didn't sleep. He snored softly beside me while I lay awake, blinking into darkness. I kept replaying the images. Ava in my lingerie, Ava at my restaurant, Ava in my city. I wasn't jealous. I was disgusted, because I knew now she was just a newer version of me. He wasn't in love with her. He was in love with control. The next morning, he went to work like nothing happened. Kissed me goodbye. Said, "Don't forget dinner tonight." Like we were still engaged, like my world hadn't cracked in half beneath him. I sat on the edge of the bed for an hour. Then I opened my laptop. Went through every photo, every message, every thread. I put them in folders, labeled them, filed them. It was methodical, mechanical. Because if I stopped to feel it, I'd fall apart. I messaged Ava from a burner account. "Congrats on your Paris trip. The room looked lovely. I just had it last week." She didn't respond, but I knew she saw it. Because the next day, her Instagram went private. That was all the confirmation I needed. I told Maya. She came over, with takeout and wine and rage in her eyes. She held me while I cried. Not the soft kind, the ugly kind. The kind that soaks your shirt and shakes your bones. The kind that only comes when your whole world was a lie. I thought about confronting him, throwing everything in his face. But Maya said something that stuck. "Don't give him the satisfaction of your pain. He wants a scene." You give him silence. So I didn't yell. I didn't cry in front of him. I started playing a new role. The quiet fiancé. The one he thinks still doesn't know. But underneath that silence, I was building something. A storm. Because he didn't just betray me. He buried me in our own love story. And I was done being buried. I started counting the lies like they were breaths. 1, 2, 3. Every smile, every touch, every late-night call he said was work. All of it played in a loop, like my brain was stuck on repeat. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. My body moved, but I wasn't in it. He'd text me during the day like nothing had happened. Miss you. Let's plan the wedding soon. I stared at the words and felt absolutely nothing. I used to light up when his name appeared on my screen. Now, I flinched. Love shouldn't feel like nausea. I stopped answering friends. Ignored. Calls. Even Maya's. I felt embarrassed. Not just for loving him, but for making him look like a hero. For broadcasting our forever while he plotted my expiration date. I'd posted the lie myself. Polished it. Made it viral. Everywhere I turned, there were reminders. The wedding Pinterest board. The guest list on my desktop. The dress sketches I'd saved in a folder called One Day. It made me want to throw my laptop out the window. Or myself. Whichever broke first. I'd try to journal, but the words came out crooked. Angry. Disconnected. I kept writing. He lied over and over like it might stop hurting. It didn't. It just confirmed what I already knew. This wasn't heartbreak. It was abandonment dressed in tuxedo promises. Even my reflection felt foreign. I looked tired. Older. Like betrayal had settled into my skin. The worst part? I still loved him. Or the version of him he showed me. That made it harder to hate him. And harder to forgive myself. He came home one night with a bottle of wine and a smile. Said, I booked us a tasting with a caterer. I wanted to laugh in his face. I wanted to scream, do you think I'm that blind? But instead, I nodded, poured the wine, pretended. That night, I lay next to him, feeling like a ghost. My body was there, but my soul had already moved out. I stared at the ceiling and thought, this is how women disappear, one compromise at a time. I stopped wearing the ring, said I was having it resized. He didn't question it. He was too busy with his other world, or too confident I'd never leave. That's what narcissists do. They bet on your silence. Thought about telling my parents. But I couldn't stomach their disappointment. Not in him. In me. For falling for it. For letting it happen. I felt like a fraud in my own life. Every memory was tainted. Every laugh, poisoned. I started walking around the city at night. Headphones in. Music loud. Trying to drown out the voice in my head that kept whispering. He doesn't love you. He never did. And the worst part? It was right. I'd always thought betrayal would come like thunder, loud, explosive. But mine came in whispers, in late-night texts and shared hotel receipts, in carefully crafted lies and curated romance. And in the middle of that silence, I made a promise to myself. You will not break for him. You will rebuild from this, quietly, powerfully. And one day, he'll choke on the version of you he lost. It happened on a Tuesday. Random. Unimportant. I was drinking cold coffee in silence when I suddenly stopped mid-sip, looked at the calendar on my phone and realized our wedding day was supposed to be 6 months away. And I felt nothing. No excitement. No grief. Just a clean, terrifying emptiness. It wasn't depression. It was clarity. That was the moment everything changed. Not when I found the texts. Not when I read Ava's name. But right there, with bitter coffee on my tongue and the light hitting the ring box I hadn't touched in weeks, I didn't want to be his wife. I didn't want to be anyone's fool. I pulled the box out of the drawer, opened it, stared at the diamond like it owed me an explanation. I whispered, "You were never mine." And then I closed it, not to keep it safe, but to seal it away. It wasn't a symbol of love anymore. It was a receipt. I started organizing everything. All the screenshots, the emails, the messages. I labeled folders on my desktop like case files. Gaslight. Receipts. Timeline. If he wanted to act like a ghost, I'd turn him into a story, one he wouldn't control. Maya helped me write the list. Not a revenge plan, yet. Just facts. Who he lied to, when, how often, the trips that overlapped, the nights he claimed to be at the office but tagged in locations Ava posted. The overlaps were disgusting and undeniable. I found his backup cloud folder, labeled Clients. Inside were photos of Ava, but also others. Different girls, different cities, different timelines. I realized then she wasn't the only one. I wasn't the only one. There was a whole gallery of ghosts he called love. That's when the rage finally kicked in. Not the kind that screams, but the kind that smiles. Controlled, cold, empowered. It's what they never expect. The quiet girl going tactical. I made a plan. Not to explode, but to expose. And not in public. Yet. I wasn't ready to light that match. But I was ready to collect the gasoline, piece by piece, day by day. With a steady hand, I stopped answering his calls during the day. Delayed my texts, kept conversations short. He started asking if I was okay. I'd smile and say, "Just tired." He didn't push. That's the thing about men like him. They only dig when they think you're about to leave their story. Not when you're about to write your own. I started therapy. Told the truth out loud for the first time. My therapist didn't flinch, just nodded and said, "He rewrote your reality, but you get to take the pen back now." That line stuck. It became my mantra. I stopped asking for closure, because the truth was, I already had it. He wasn't sorry. He wasn't confused. He was calculated. And that made everything simpler. I booked a weekend away, alone, no explanation. Just a suitcase, a quiet hotel, and a playlist that didn't include any of the songs he once called ours. I sat by the ocean, watched the waves, and whispered, "You're still here, even after him." I wasn't healed yet, but I was awake, and that's when you become dangerous. Revenge didn't come with fire. It came with grace. I wanted him to unravel slowly, to watch the story he built, crafted, curated, staged, crack under the weight of his own arrogance. I didn't need to scream. I just needed to be quiet long enough for him to hear the silence. I started with the posts, not mine, his. I collected screenshots from his socials, the double dates, the love declarations, the trips. I found every lie and compared them with the texts he sent me at the same time. A side-by-side betrayal. His digital footprint was a graveyard of truth. Then I built a folder, labeled it Perspective. It included Ava's texts, my photos, and our engagement post with timestamps. I didn't send it to her directly. I sent it to her brand sponsor. A subtle message. You're marketing a lie. Within 48 hours, her feed went dark. Next came the subtle unfollowing. His friends, his cousin, his business partner. I dropped them, all at once. Quiet. Clinical. But not before liking a few suspicious photos, ones he thought I'd never seen. It wasn't rage. It was revelation. They saw it. They felt it. That eerie digital silence that says, she knows. He noticed. Of course, he did. He called, texted, even showed up unannounced at my apartment. I let him knock for 15 minutes. Then I turned off the porch light. He begged. I listened from the other side of the door and said nothing. Silence is the sharpest knife. That week, I met with a lawyer. Not to sue. Not yet. Just to prepare. I wanted options. Control. He had taken so much from me. I wasn't letting him touch another inch of my life. Not emotionally. Not financially. He emailed me. Long, dramatic. Full of, I'm sorry, and I was confused, and you have no idea what I've been going through. Classic. I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I forwarded it to myself, labeled it gaslighting, and added it to the archive. Then I went live, just once. A soft voice, no names, just the story. He flew me first class to Paris. I posted the ring. Then I found her texts. I let people connect the dots. The video went viral in 2 days. The comments? Brutal, supportive, cathartic. He texted again. Take it down. I didn't respond. He called again. I declined. Then he showed up at my job. Sat in the parking lot for 2 hours. I walked past him without flinching. He said, please. I said, no. I started building my own life again. Small things. New apartment. New plants. A new routine that didn't include second-guessing every word I said. And every time I saw his name pop up, I blocked it again. A new number. A new attempt. Each one meant less. Revenge wasn't loud. It was watching him unravel while I thrived. It was knowing he Googled my name and found the truth told beautifully, powerfully, in my own voice, not his version. Mine. The last message he sent? I never thought you'd do this to me. And I just smiled, because he had no idea. It's been 8 months since Paris, but it feels like a different lifetime. I've moved twice, started therapy, launched a small consulting gig from home, and finally, I can breathe without flinching. The nightmares come less now. The silence is no longer empty. It's sacred. I don't wear the ring. I never sold it, though. I keep it in a tiny velvet pouch at the back of a drawer. Not out of sentiment, but as a reminder. A monument to the girl I was. The one who believed love had to hurt to be real. Maya and I talk every day. We laugh now. About him, about the Paris trip, about the way I used to panic when he was 5 minutes late. She tells me I look lighter, that I talk slower, that I take up space again. And she's right, I do. I started dating again, casual, careful, but honest. I no longer twist myself into someone more likable. I ask questions. I don't apologize, for my standards. I walk away when something feels off. I trust my gut. That's what healing looks like. It's not loud. It's consistent. Ava never reached out. I doubt she ever will. Maybe she's still with him. Maybe she's not. Maybe she found her own folder of truths and chose her own quiet revenge. Either way, I don't check anymore, because what happens to him doesn't affect me. He's just a name I outgrew. Sometimes I still scroll through the Paris photos, not out of nostalgia, but study. I look at the girl in those pictures, so in love, so unaware. I want to wrap her in a hug and whisper, "You survived this. You come back louder." I posted one final story a month ago, a carousel. Just me. On the beach, a book in my lap, wind in my hair. The caption read, "This wasn't heartbreak. It was my awakening." I watched the likes roll in, but this time I didn't need them. The approval was already mine. People still ask if I regret it, loving him, trusting him, saying yes under the Eiffel Tower. And honestly, no, because that girl loved deeply. She believed. And that's not weakness, that's courage. He taught me what manipulation looks like, what gaslighting feels like. But more importantly, he taught me how to reclaim my voice, my time, my story. He gave me the plot twist I didn't know I needed. Now, I dance barefoot in my kitchen. I take long walks with no destination. I say no without guilt. I say yes without fear. I belong to myself, fully. Finally. He flew me to Paris. But I took myself home, and I'm never handing my heart to someone like him again.